Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our May Board of Selectmen meeting. I'm Mike Frieda, joined as always by our second Selectman, Mr. William Piper, and our third Selectwoman, Miss Sally Buemi. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to ask everyone to stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 2, any public comments to tonight's agenda?
Well, I have a comment. I'm not a member of the public, but I have a comment. I just wanted to remind you, I was a little surprised that there wasn't the appointment for the vacancy on the Board of Finance.
Yes.
Because we only have until May 15th, 14th, 12th. Because I think it was effective on March 15th.
Right. So here's what my plan is, to call a special Board of Selectmen meeting sometime next week. We can do it maybe Zoom or conference call just for that one item, to have an appointment.
Sure.
Okay? Yeah, we don't have someone lined up, or did not have someone lined up prior to tonight, but Val and I talked about it. We will have a special Board of Selectmen meeting, okay?
Right. And I just also wanted to remind you about calling a town meeting for the continuing the supernumerary ordinance that expires at the end of the fiscal year, because we're budgeting for the supernumeraries. We need them to protect our students.
Right, we do.
At the schools, and so we need the ordinance to authorize that.
We do. So we are working on a date, I think, in June or even July. So that's going to happen, yes.
Okay,
So,
I just wanted
Yeah.
to remind you of that. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move to item number 3, approval of the minutes of April 6th, that Board of Selectmen meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second.
All right, motion second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, item 4, I'd like to take everyone watching on TV with or through this mini overview tonight. So we wanted to remind everyone that a couple of important dates coming up: the annual budget town meeting, the second meeting that we've presented, that we will present a budget again, is Monday, May 8th, this coming Monday at 7 p.m. at North Haven High School. The superintendent and I will be back up presenting to the public the Board of Education budget and the town budget that we presented last month. And our referendum will be Tuesday, May 16th, and all the voting will be done at the Mildred Wakely Recreation Center. May 17th will be the Board of Finance meeting. After that meeting next week, the mill rate will be set.
Assuming the budget passes.
Assuming the budget passes, that's correct. I wanted to let everyone know, as a reminder, that the Memorial Day Parade this year is Saturday, May 27th. The step-off is at 10:30 a.m. That's over at Bailey Road, and the rain date has been established as June 3rd. We hope everyone will attend. I have a meeting with the veterans next week to review the number of brigades and the number of participants, and everything right now is moving along very well. The May Market, the North Haven Garden Club, their May Market will be Saturday, May 13th, and that will be from 9 to 12 at the Rec Center at 7 Lindsley Street. We thank the North Haven Garden Club for all they do for the town of North Haven in the town's beautification plan. Thank you, and I look forward to being there myself. I wanted to fill everyone in on our concert series. I've added 2 more concerts this year. For the first time ever, we'll be beginning the concert series at the end of May. This year, Tuesday, May 30th. And for the first time ever, we will be going beyond the August date, and the last concert will be September 5th. And these are the groups and bands that we've come up with this year. Last year, I wanted to make a big splash here in North Haven with some of the largest tribute bands that play all over the state. This year, We'll start off with Rich DePalma, but I want to point out, as you look through these bands here, I'm bringing in a Billy Joel tribute band this year, a Motown band. Well, Timmy Maya's been here before. A Bruce Springsteen tribute band we're bringing in. This year, Steely Dan, last year I should say, was a big hit here, so we're bringing them back. And when we look at this Bon Jovi, I've had some requests for them down through the years. We're bringing the Bon Jovi tribute band and a Journey tribute band. So this is the lineup this year, and I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, that I'm all over the town talking to people. People love these concerts, and we get so much participation. People come in from as far as Danbury and Manchester to see these concerts. They love coming on the North Haven Green. They love the ambiance, and they love coming, any of our own citizens, for one night a week, Tuesday night, from 7 to, let's say, 9 o'clock. People come, relax, and at least for that evening, put their trials and tribulations aside and enjoy themselves. And this year will be bigger and larger than it's ever been.
Has that been posted on the
Yes.
town website?
Yes, it has. This year also, we'll have the first annual Pride Day here in North Haven. That'll be Saturday, June 17th. All are welcome. I've been meeting with this committee, a group of North Haven residents. They came to me regarding this event, and I want to make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that North Haven is an inclusive community. So we have offered the Pride Day committee to have the North Haven Green, and everyone's welcome. This will be a family-friendly event. There'll be music, entertainment, a flag raising, food, a bounce house. There'll be face painting, photo booths, and there'll be actually animals coming in, so where the children can enjoy some of the animals that are coming in from one of the groups that this group has been working with. So that will be Saturday, June 17th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. We are also working with the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce for the first time ever. We will be hosting a North Haven Business Festival, and this will be on the North Haven Green on September 23rd. And there will be no rain date on this. This is designed to connect the North Haven and regional business communities to our residents. Years ago, Valerie and I put on what was called Show and Sell at the North Haven High School. This is an outdoor version of that, but the Chamber has really embraced this. They have got corporate sponsors. I will be there, of course, and there'll be kids' activities, food, musical entertainment, and prizes. So this promises to be a very, very big event that we're hosting on the North Haven Green. Economic development. This is a slide of At Home. Everybody knows about At Home, and I've just announced a Home Goods coming into North Haven. That'll be going on Universal Drive, and that'll be at the site of the old DSW, 24,000 square feet. It took me 2 years, ladies and gentlemen, to get this retailer here, and that'll open up sometime in October. Some of the other recent openings, Panera Bread, that was a long-standing project that stalled during COVID. I was down there for the opening, ribbon cutting. I spent some time with the area manager for Panera Bread, who oversees 9 stores, and that has been a great success so far. There's a new Mexican restaurant in town. I was there with the owners, La Frontera. That is on Northern Washington Avenue in the Scrub Oak Road Plaza. Haven Hot Chicken. That's a project that I've been working on with the developer, and that was a resounding success. The lines were out the door on that particular day. So we have the Starbucks there, the Haven Hot Chicken there, the Five Guys there, and I have one more small location to fill, and I'm hoping to have an announcement on that perhaps next month. Wholesome Pool and Spa, that's over on State Street. That is something I'll be at over the weekend, and that's a new business, but essentially it took over another pool company, so it's not an incremental new business, but nonetheless, if they didn't go there, it would have been an empty building in town. So that's happening, that's opening this Saturday, and I'll be there for that. This past Saturday, I was at Nomad Yoga and Bari. What a nice event that was. 500 Washington Avenue, met with the owners, did some of my own workouts there, worked out pretty good. Bistro Latino Wine Bar, I'll be there this week. That's another new restaurant in town. But the big news, though, has been working with the Yale healthcare system here. And I just wanted to explain this. So I'm very close with the executives at Yale New Haven Hospital. Chris O'Connor, the president, Dr. Keith Churchill. We have done a lot there. That was a vacant facility 12 years ago. So 2 weeks ago, we opened up a neurology, orthopedic, and digestive health care center, 28,000 square feet, in tandem with Gaylord. So I gave a speech there, we opened it up, we cut the ribbon, and the big news here is that when we look at neurology, it is now resources that are in town for dementia, Alzheimer's, stroke victims, all kind of neurological problems that may exist. On the digestive health care front, when we look at things like celiac disease, Crohn's disease, now we have a center here in North Haven to address that. In addition to that, an orthopedic center. So when we go back in time and we look at all of these resources that we've brought in here, we now truly have in North Haven a Yale healthcare system medical campus with just about everything anyone could ever need here in North Haven. And it was a resounding success in opening this up. I mentioned home goods. I'm working on some big projects at Dodge Avenue. Hope to have some answers on that in the next couple of months. And Washington Avenue, Northern Washington Avenue, North Haven. I've been working with the Forbes Fuel Group and the property owner. And what we will see there is a Cumberland Farms format, but it won't be a Cumberland Farms. It'll be a Forbes Fuel format. It'll be a mini store. There'll be a food component for lunch, for breakfast, in addition to a gas component. This has been a very successful model in other cities and towns, and we're fortunate that they've agreed to come to North Haven. So that's kind of what's happening on that. I often say, despite the problems that all of us have as municipalities, the future here in North Haven continues to be very bright, and I guarantee you, and the only reason I can guarantee it, because I'm involved with every single project here in town, that there'll be many other projects that are in the pipeline that will manifest themselves into success stories in the future. Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, if I may just, before we go to the next item on the agenda, you mentioned first in your overview the May 8th budget hearing. And I think that that's very important to emphasize, because everybody today got in the mail the Courier, which I think is now East Haven and North Haven combined. And the May 4th issue has an article about the North Haven Board of Education portion of the budget. And at the end, it says a referendum will be held on Tuesday, May 16th, with a public hearing on Monday, May 15th. And my mind exploded because, as you know, Michael, when I first came here 10 years ago, one of my top priorities was to try to increase participation at public meetings. I remember the first public hearing in early April that I attended in 2014, right after I was elected. I stood there, and except for a handful of town employees right in the front, there was no one there. And I remember it so well because I said, oh, is there, I don't know if you remember this, I said,
remember, yeah.
Is there a big game on tonight? That's what I thought, right? And this past public hearing, I was happy to see, yes, that little pocket of town employees, but I would say there was about 75 people there. Is that great when there's 18,000 registered voters? No. Is it better than zero? Yes. And I work very hard in my column and talking to people when I run into them and they're telling me ideas. I say, please, show up. This this is the one form of your government, the local government, where you can participate. And so, it's always been a big item for me to promote participation. So when I see a wrong date, I go nuts, okay? And so I just wanted to correct that. It is Monday, May 8th. Our charter requires that it's the second Monday of the month. And just really quickly, since I'm talking about this article, they say the Board of Ed budget increase is 2.87, it's 2.5. And they're also talking about salaries. They say, and I quote, budgeted for next year is $1,544,000 for all salaried employees with North Haven Public Schools. And then they say with a total budget of $36,475,000. The $1.5 million is the increase in the Board of Ed's salaries, and the $36 million is the total for salaries. The actual total budget is $61,643,954. So, I don't like misleading things in the paper either, but I really wanted to focus on that wrong date. So please, if you have any questions about the upcoming budget, or you need to know more about it, you missed the public hearing, please come out, as the first selectman stated in his overview, to the budget town meeting on Monday, May 8th. And I just have to say one more thing, since I'm talking, yeah.
And that's at 7 o'clock at the high school.
7 o'clock at the high school. Thank you, Bill. That's
No,
very
okay.
important
Because
to
I
say.
didn't have a chance to read the article. Did they at least use the right location in the town?
No, they, okay, hold on.
That may not be right then.
I don't think they gave that. It's on page 7. Excuse me, folks. No, it just says the date of the hearing, May 15th, again.
Yep.
So it's May 8th, as Bill said, 7 o'clock at the high school. And I just wanted to really quickly mention another mistake in the April 27th article. They were talking about, I guess you gave a lot of information, and you told, this is nothing you did, Michael, they reported the mill rate increase is 1.94%. That's wrong. The mill rate is going up 1.94, and it's a 6.3% increase. So your taxes are going up 6.3%. So that 1.94% is wrong. The mill rate is going up by 1.94, from 30.71 to 32.65. I just want to say I'll be writing a column about this, but I do support the budget. I think you did a good job, but I just like it reported accurately. This comes in in our mailbox. A lot of people read this, and so anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
For, just to your point, for any reporter, this
Yeah.
is their most complicated article, because the reporters don't understand finances. You give them a budget book, you answer questions, but, we don't edit their articles, so.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you did that, but they did that. This has been a problem for years, but we're dealing with this right now, and to me, it's not a 1.94% increase, it's a 6.3. That's a significant difference. But I do want to say one more thing about this article. You and I have a great rapport. We've been sitting here next to each other for 10 years. Mr. Frieda accurately was describing something about the current budget, and he was talking about lost revenue as a contributing factor. And you said, while the town saw an increase of $1,363,000 in tax revenue from the grand list growth, which was a 1.4% increase in the grand list growth, it will not be enough to balance out revenue loss. And then you said, hence the difference in the mill rate. Okay, so you talked about losing funding, the 1.3 million from the grand list, the 1.4% increase in the grand list, hence the mill rate. I would like to read my April 4th I was just thinking, where I say that federal funding is gone and the mill rate is going up, will grand list growth help? Well, a little. The 1.4 net grand list growth will bring in 1.3 million in new tax revenue. That is commendable, but not enough. Hence the tax increase. You used my hence, really.
Well, I don't read the papers, folks, but isn't that something, though?
That is amazing.
I don't read the
said
articles that are written
the
about this
exact
stuff.
same thing. I said hence the tax increase.
we use the
You
hence.
said
Wow.
hence the difference in the mill rate. So I was going to say, if you're going to quote me, give me a little nudge.
You and I, we're spending too much time together.
I know. So I am flattered, even though it was done by accident.
Wow.
So hence, there it is, folks.
Hence, there it is.
I don't know.
That's good.
We've been here. No, I'm teasing. We have a good rapport, and so if I just wanted to mention that when I saw hence,
That's pretty funny.
I said I got to mention that.
I didn't even know that.
But I'm very serious about that misprint about the budget public hearing. Please attend on May 8th. Thank you for allowing me to
You're welcome.
clarify that mistake in today's paper.
Sally, on May 16th, when people vote for the referendum, what time does voting start?
It's 6 a.m.
6 a.m.
to 6 p.m., all voting.
To 8
8
8 p.m., what did I say?
6. You
Oh,
said
no,
6
6 a.m. to 8 p.m.
8
There you go, see?
That's okay. And
Six.
then it'll be over.
I made a mistake. 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., the normal hours that the polls are open, but it's all voting at the rec center.
The rec center,
Yeah.
like it is every year, so.
Yeah.
So just as,
Yes.
and it's also posted, I think, on the town website.
Yes,
And
yes.
Belle's been good enough to post it like we always do on the town website. But no, that's
Yes.
important. I'm glad that you, because
Okay.
for people who don't watch, and a lot of people obviously don't watch tonight's meeting, I hope they either look at the town website or come to the meeting and don't read the paper, which is, and be there on a night when it's not happening.
Well,
Thank you, Sally. for
okay,
pointing that.
no problem.
All right, Sally?
Yes,
you're
I
up.
wanted to put this on the agenda. This is something that you and I have talked about a bit at Board of Finance meetings, which I always attend and Bill always attends, and I've discussed this at public comment. But I just wanted to talk to you, because this is my best place, really, to talk to you about a concern that I have. And I just wanted to preface my discussion of this issue about the fire department consultant inspectors by quickly summarizing a discussion we had back, I believe it was either in September or October of 2022. We were talking about, you were informing us about trouble you were having with hiring and filling a new position that appeared in the current fiscal year, 22-23, in the finance office. It was the controller's position and it was budgeted at $85,000. And you were explaining to us that you had trouble filling it because of the relatively low salary that was being offered. And so I asked, well, why don't you increase the salary? And you answered the right answer, which I was hoping you would answer, that you cannot change the employment table in mid-fiscal year. And so with that as a backdrop, I once again want to just hand you and Bill this letter that was done in 1993 by then town attorney Bob Ciula, and it concerns changing the employment table in mid-fiscal year. And so the reason why I think that this is important is we've had this issue before, and I've brought it up a few times actually, and I just wanted to, first of all, talk about these inspectors. What they do is they basically, correct me if I'm wrong, they do inspections of existing businesses, and they also review construction plans, and they are also fire inspectors they do inspections after fires. Very important job. And for years, we had one consultant who was not a town employee. At the end of the year, his wages were reported on a 1099, like what you do for an independent contractor. And at the public hearing that we had this past April, it was the first time that I heard that there was a liability issue with the inspector. Well, actually, now there's two. And you announced that there was a liability issue and that they had to become town employees. And so I asked you about benefits at the hearing. And this was at the hearing, you said that there would be no benefits for the full-time employee, but there would be for the part-time employee. But then at the April Board of Finance meeting, when it was discussed about these two inspectors, you said there was no demand for benefits. So it seemed to conflict a little. Which is it? Are there benefits
Yes.
for the part-time?
So in the first conversation, the benefit I was talking about was he collects a pension. That's the benefit, okay?
The part-time.
The part-time.
Okay.
But there are no other benefits other than him collecting his pension.
Oh, so that's what you meant.
That's the
So
benefit.
we're not kicking in anymore. Okay, and how about health coverage?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
So neither of them will have health care coverage.
That was a little misleading to me
Right.
at the public hearing, because
Right.
when you said pension benefits, I thought that we were still
Right.
kicking in. So there are no more benefits. Now, we're taking out Social Security though, right? They're getting paid, of course, they're having taxes withheld now as employees, and we're taking back Social Security,
Like,
which of
yes.
course, as employers, we have to match that.
We have to.
Yeah.
Yes. So
we take out 7.5, but we have to give the government 15%.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm an employer for many years, so I know all about the horrible double
Yep.
payment that
So that
employers have to
benefit
get.
was that I mentioned the first was really the benefit of the pensioner still collecting his pension.
Okay, but when I was talking about asking about benefits, I meant, were we still paying in to any benefits, whether it was paying into a pension or providing health insurance?
There's no health
So
insurance.
no, and.
No health.
and-
Well, you have to understand with the pension, the town has to make the annual required contribution for the existing people who have pensions, who have not retired, plus those who have already retired. So
Right.
they're part of the annual required contribution.
But this new guy that came on is
Yeah.
recently retired from the fire department.
Right.
And so we're not kicking in anymore
No.
to his
No.
retirement. Okay, so that clears up that. And by the way, I have said this in many forums, fire commission meetings, Board of Finance meetings, my column, and I'll say it again here, I'm very supportive of having two inspectors, one full-time, one part-time. I've always supported the position, the additional $50,000 part-time cost for the second inspector. So I want to make that clear, that I've always supported that cost. My concern is that we're making it effective, they're changing to town employees now. That's what you said at the Board of Finance meeting.
Yeah, I have a solution for that, though. So
What?
if I can fill you in on that.
Sure.
Well, first of all, let me just address the two. There's really 1.5 because one's part-time. We've done a comparative analysis, and we're still less than towns our size across the state of Connecticut in terms of the number of inspectors. They either have 2 full-timers or 3 full-timers. We really have 1.5, the full-timer and the part-timer. But to tell you what the solution is, I've already done this. This is going to be on the Board of Finance agenda. Okay, so I just wanted to, so you don't have to, because you're going to have a long resolution to read here, okay? So I just want to
Yes.
tell you, so we
Well,
can.
thank you.
We can.
That's that's why I
Right.
gave you this.
So it's going to be on the Board of Finance agenda. We'll have the Board of Finance vote to have it put in this fiscal year, okay? So,
That's all that I was really asking for.
I thought you
Because
might, yeah.
it is, according to the letter that you have from Mr. Ciola, it would be illegal to change the employment table without the Board of Finance approval. So I will take you at your word that you are you are doing this the right way,
We're putting it on the Board of Finance.
putting it on the agenda for them to vote.
And Valerie,
That is great.
Valerie heard me tell the Finance Department
Okay.
the other day, so.
Right. I have great confidence in Bob Ciula. You know, you talk a lot about Jeff D'Onofrio, and he is a great attorney, especially in municipal construction law. And Mr. D'Onofrio works for the firm Ciula and D'Onofrio. So Mr. Ciula, I think, was Jeff's mentor.
He was.
So he's a great guy. And in fact, as a young attorney many years ago, I took some continuing legal education classes at Yale Law School, and I took one in municipal law, and I walked in, and there was Bob Ciula as the instructor, and I was shocked to see him and thrilled to see him because Bob Ciula was also on the Board of Ed when I was a student at North Haven High School. And I'm sure you're shocked to know I was kind of active as a student in government affairs, so I knew very well that Bob Ciula was on the Board of Ed. And so it was thrilling to be in his class. And so that will end that, because that was really, after a big, long thing, I was going to demand that it be on the agenda, and so it is. So that is that.
Hard to believe this letter's 30 years old, right?
It is 30 years old, but you know what hasn't changed in 30 years? He's relying on Section 707E of our town charter in his conclusion that something like this needs Board of Finance approval. And you know what hasn't changed in 30 years? Our charter.
And
Maybe
looking
it
at
should
this-
be changed, but it hasn't.
And seeing Robert Williams here,
Yeah,
I mean, he was a neighbor of mine back
Get
then.
out.
Yeah.
That's nice.
He was a wonderful guy, Robert Williams.
okay.
Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I know it's 30 years old, but it is good law because our charter has not changed in 30 years. And that's what he relied on. So thank you very much for that. And
Okay.
we can move on.
Yes.
So we are going to consider and act upon a resolution for the authorization, issuance, and sale of not exceeding $13,500,000 for the Town of North Haven general obligation refunding bonds. So do you want to set this up before I read this resolution?
Why don't you read the resolution, then
And then
I'll
you'll
explain.
talk about it.
Okay,
All
so-
right. So I will make this resolution. It is entitled Resolution of the Board of Selectmen. Resolution with respect to the authorization, issuance, and sale of not exceeding $13,500,000 Town of North Haven general obligation refunding bonds. Excuse me just one second. Thank you. Okay. Resolved. A, that the town issue its refunding bonds, and then parentheses, the refunding bonds, in an amount not to exceed $13,500,000, the proceeds of which are hereby appropriated to fund one or more escrows to be applied together with the investment earnings thereon to the payment in whole or in part as determined by the first selectman and the treasurer of the town of the outstanding principal of and interest and any call premium on all or a portion of any issue of the town's general obligation bonds, including but not limited to the town's $10 million general obligation bonds, issue of 2016, $7,500,000 general obligation bonds, issue of 2017, and $7,500,000 general obligation bonds, issue of 2018, the refunded bonds, including the payment of interest accrued on the refunded bonds to the date of payment, and to pay costs of issuance of the refunding bonds, including legal fees, consultants' fees, trustee or escrow fees, underwriter fees, net interest, and other financing costs, and other costs related to the payment of the refunding bonds. The refunding bonds shall be issued pursuant to Section 7-370C of the General Statutes of Connecticut, revision of 1958, as amended, and any other enabling acts. The refunding bonds shall be general obligations of the town secured by the irrevocable pledge of the full faith and credit of the town. The first selectman and the treasurer of the town shall sign the refunding bonds by their manual or facsimile signatures. The law firm of Pullman and Comley LLC is designated as bond counsel to approve the legality of the refunding bonds. The first selectman and the treasurer are authorized to determine the amount, date, interest rates, maturities, redemption provisions, form, and other details of the refunding bonds, to designate one or more banks or trust companies to be certifying bank, registrar, transfer agent, and payment agent for the refunding bonds, to provide for the keeping of a record of the refunding bonds, to sell the refunding bonds at public or private sale, to deliver the refunding bonds, and to perform all other acts which are necessary or appropriate to issue the refunding bonds. B, that the town hereby declares its official intent under Federal Income Tax Regulations Section 1.150-2 that costs of the refunding may be paid from temporary advances of available funds, and that, except to the extent reimbursed by grant monies, the town reasonably expects to reimburse any such advances from the proceeds of borrowings in an aggregate principal amount not in excess of the amount of borrowing authorized above for the refunding. The first selectman and the treasurer are authorized to amend such declaration of official intent as they deem necessary or advisable, and to bind the town pursuant to such representations and covenants as they deem necessary or advisable, in order to maintain the continued exemption from federal income taxation of interest on the bonds authorized by this resolution, if issued on a tax-exempt basis, including covenants to pay rebates of investment earnings to the United States in future years. C, that while it is anticipated that the bonds will qualify as tax-exempt bonds, the first selectman and the treasurer are authorized, upon the advice of bond counsel, to issue all or any portion of the bonds as bonds, the interest on which is includable in the gross income of the owners thereof for federal income tax purposes, and it is hereby found and determined that the issuance of any such bonds or notes is in the public interest. D, that the first selectman and the treasurer are authorized to make representations and enter into written agreements for the benefit of holders of the bonds to provide secondary market disclosure information, which agreements may include such terms as they deem advisable or appropriate in order to comply with applicable laws or rules pertaining to the sale or purchase of such bonds. E, that the first selectman and the treasurer are authorized to take all other action which is necessary or desirable to enable the town to effectuate the refunding of the refunded bonds and to issue the refunded bonds for such purposes, including but not limited to the entrance into agreements on behalf of the town with underwriters, trustees, escrow agents, and others to facilitate the issuance of the refunding bonds, the escrow of the proceeds thereof, and investment earnings thereon, and the payment of the refunding bonds. F, that the authorization to issue refunding bonds shall lapse on June 30th, 2024. I will move that resolution as read.
Nice job reading that. That was long.
Yes, thank you. Is everybody awake out there?
All right,
Mr. White, are you with us? Good.
motion.
I'll second that resolution in motion, that's all.
All right, so in discussion, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take some very sophisticated legal language and put it into more basic terms. For years here, I've always looked for opportunities to refinance notes, and this is yet another example. What this means is that this will save us anywhere from $283,220 to $320,300 over the life of this refinancing. And that's what this means.
Yes, we've done this before.
Yes.
I fully support it.
Okay. All right, so we have motion second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
William, would you like to take the next resolution?
Thank you, Mike. Number 7, item number 7 on the agenda is to consider and act upon an authorizing resolution to obtain grant aid under the state DEP Clean Water Fund financing for water pollution abatement facilities. Authorizing resolution to obtain grant aid under the state DEP Clean Water Fund financing for water pollution abatement facilities. Resolved that it is in the best interest of the town of North Haven to enter into contracts with the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. In furtherance of this resolution, Mr. Michael J. Frieda, the first selectman, is duly authorized to enter into and sign said contracts on behalf of the town of North Haven, Connecticut. The first selectman is further authorized to provide such additional information and execute such other documents as may be required by the state or federal government in connection with said contracts, and to execute any amendments, rescissions, and revisions thereto.
I'll
I'll move that
second.
resolution.
All right.
Excuse me, I'll second.
Motion and a second, and to summarize this puts us in a position to qualify for grants under this Clean Water Act to help us with our Water Pollution Control Authority on any infrastructure improvements. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Bond releases.
Yes, I'll take the first one. It is I-18-14, 224 Quinnipiac Avenue. The amount of the original bond is $4,000. The current balance of the bond is $4,000. I'll make a motion to release the entire bond balance of $4,000 with the recommendation of the Inland Wetlands Commission and the town engineer.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second that release.
Okay, motion second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next.
Next bond release is number I-12-11, 41 Stiles Avenue. Amount of original bond, $50,000. Current balance of bond, $50,000. I'll make a motion to release the entire bond balance of $50,000 with the recommendation of the Inland Wetlands Commission and the town engineer.
Second?
All right, motion second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And then we have I-19-11, which is also 41 Stiles Avenue. The amount of the original bond is $2,750. The current balance of the bond is $2,750. I'll make a motion to release the entire bond balance of, oops. I'm going to make a motion to amend the agenda to have that read $2,750. Is that correct?
Yes, so there's a motion.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to make that read $2,750.
I'll second that motion to fix the typo.
All right, motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
I will make a motion to release the entire bond of $2,750 with the recommendation of the Inland Wetlands Commission and the town engineer.
Is there a
I'll second that release.
All right, motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Property tax.
Yes, number 9, I will make a motion to approve the property tax refunds as they appear in our agenda.
For reviewing those property tax refunds, I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we're at item number 10. The next regularly scheduled meeting of this Board of Selectmen is Thursday, June 1st at 6:30 here at Memorial Town Hall. We're at the point, ladies and gentlemen, item 11, public comment. Any public comment? Oh, okay. Tom, Tom White, yeah.
I apologize for being late. I don't know if anything was covered in the very beginning of your presentation, but I have a couple questions and 2 comments. Last month, we heard and saw evidence of destruction, illegal activity of mountain biking, and illegal mountain bike features in the Peters Rock Park, allowed by the Peters Rock Association and Board of Directors. I suggested town administration, together with the town attorney, draft a document which clearly outlines the guidelines for the authority of Peters Rock Association and Board of Directors. I was wondering if you had any update on that.
Yeah, that's going to happen, Tom. We don't have it tonight, of course, but that's in progress, yes.
Okay. And then the second question was, the town attorney had stated Peters Rock Association will be submitting a remediation and restoration plan for Peters Rock to the town. My wife, Mary, and many others feel their plan will be sorely deficient. She asks the town have experts participate in the plan, such as a wetlands scientist, soil scientist, and arborist, with Peters Rock Association bearing the financial burden for their services, as well as for the remediation and restoration required to restore Peters Rock Park back to the way it was. And did you have any update on anything drafted or from them? Or
No.
Okay.
No, but let me explain, Tom, that I actually spoke with the Peters Rock Association, and they understand clearly that this is over. There is a plan that they've laid out. There's certain target dates that the attorney's been working on with them. And it stretches from now, I think, until either the end of the summer or early fall. But Lynn Sadowski's managing this for me right now. I have my hands full here on hundreds of
I'm
other
sure.
issues. So now, some may say, well, it's not quick enough, right? So we're trying to, through Lynn and the attorneys, make sure that all the target dates are on track. And as far as hiring a soil scientist, I mean, we'll take a look at it, Val. I saw you made a note there. But I don't know if they have any money either, Peters Rock, and then they may end up falling back on us. But there is a plan to remove everything that's there. And we have had some pushback, believe me, against this.
I'm sure.
There's certain people that want it. But right now, it's all resolved.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, just concern, I think, of them falling short because they were dismissing, their responsibility in all of that. And
Right.
they thought maybe that it would be shortcutted and maybe it wouldn't go back to exactly the way it was and stuff would, as far as wetlands activity
Yeah.
that they needed. A lot of people, it's not just my wife, but others were talking about the wetlands activity that was destroyed, so
Yes.
they were concerned.
But we will look at that, though, Tom, all right? The soils, the wetland scientist. And the other resource we have is the Wetlands Commission, and maybe we can get the chairman out there to take a look at it, too. But there is a plan, a systematic plan to remove everything.
Okay. And then we just had a couple comments. One was we were greatly relieved to hear that the change of use for 140 Washington Avenue, the public hearing for the gun sales and training was withdrawn. We're glad that I was prepared to make some comments regarding that because I did
Thomas,
feel.
there was no need to, because I took it out.
Yeah, that's great.
I don't know
That's
if you saw
great.
the Register article. I don't know if you read it.
Yeah, I did.
Okay,
I did.
So
Yeah.
I handled it.
Yeah, appreciate that. And the other comment was we're all suffering in the terrible economy where our revenue is not keeping up with the rising cost of everything. The same is true for the town of North Haven's budget. The cost of everything, supplies, labor, etc., has gone up, and the revenue cannot keep up. No one likes a tax and mill increase, but we feel this budget proposed is a balance between maintaining town services while dealing with the increase in costs across the board and dealing with the revenue unable to keep pace. My wife Mary and I support the budget and encourage residents to vote yes at the referendum on Tuesday, May 16th at the Rec Center Gymnasium. Thanks.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Mrs. Barrett.
Before Mrs. Barrett speaks, I just wanted to follow up, Mr. White, on Peters Rock. As you recall, because you were there and your wife was there was that March 1st Park and Rec meeting that was at the rec center in the gym. And after that, I had gone up there at Peters Rock prior to that, and after that meeting, I went up there, and there were signs that said that the mountain trail was closed until further notice. And then a few weeks later, I went back up to check on whether a lot of those ramps and other apparatus were down, and I noticed the signs it, until further notice was crossed out, and I was glad to see that, so I assume that this is
It's over.
is over, as you said. So I was very proud to be, along with you and your wife and others, part of the group that was against that type of biking, mountain biking there with those apparatus. It was very dangerous. I saw them in person, and it's unfortunate that some other biking alternative couldn't have been discussed, because you said you got some pushback that people wanted biking, but that didn't happen. They just put up something that was just not really conducive to the hiking, bird watching nature, and it was interfering with habitat, interfering with the river, all of the points that you and your wife made at that hearing. So I'm glad that it's gone. It's just unfortunate.
Well, to your point that you just made earlier, and
Yeah.
Valerie heard it, I had to end up putting closure to it.
Yeah.
Because there was still a question mark, Tom.
Yeah.
And Valerie heard the conversation, her and Tammy. And afterwards, Valerie and Tammy said to me, Mike, you put the closure to it.
Yeah. Right. Well, after that, yeah, I mean, I wasn't happy that it said that the trails were closed until further notice, because that left the door open that mountain bike trail with those apparatus could be coming back.
That's right.
So thank you for putting the kibosh on it.
She heard it, Tammy heard it, because there was that still open-ended thought that it could be represented.
Mm-hmm.
And they saw a demonstrative Mike Frieda that day, Val, right?
Correct.
So those signs, I'm just reporting to you, and you can tell Mary that, I'm satisfied that it's over. But your question about remediation is also a good one, and
Yeah,
we'll
it
see
is.
what happens.
See what happens. That's
So-
a good question.
But thank you.
Mrs. Barrett.
Sorry.
Nancy Barrett, Crestview Drive, and again, just to piggyback on this particular issue, I've also been up to Peters Rock several times, saw the change in the signs, and I would also just like to say that I think I remember seeing on social media sometime around April 19th or so some posts by several of the representatives of these groups who actually were creating these mountain bike trails that this project has, at least from their standpoint, concluded, and they've moved on, I think, to Wallingford. But again, I think there's always this concern about the control, the disconnect in control from the town to Peters Rock to these outside organizations, and I always wonder whether they're saying one thing on social media and still showing up at Peters Rock and potentially doing whatever they want. So I think that there does need to be some follow-up to make sure that these bike trails are not continuing to be developed. But also I also agree to the point that damage has in fact been done, and so I think that damage needs to be assessed. Not only to our wetlands, but also to the natural habitats that I know that Walter Brockett and so many others have worked tirelessly over decades to help to develop. So I think that we really, as a town, are the victims here of outside organizations that have been acting independent of this town for very self-serving purposes. And I agree with you. I think that there has to be some accountability. My next point is just to follow up on the points that Selectman Boehme made. I also read the North Haven Courier articles, both the one that came out today, May 4th, as well as the one from April 27th. And again, I've said this before, you pick up the New Haven Register between the months of, let's say, January and May, and you read about budget development from every other town. For whatever reason, there's no coverage of the budget development process for here in the town of North Haven. Of course, I have a front row seat serving on the Board of Finance, but I'm just here as a member of our community. And so I think that it is imperative that our local papers, if it's going to be the only source of information, that the information has to be accurate. So I'd just like to make a suggestion that we encourage the reporters to provide a draft of their articles to the entire Board of Selectmen, for example. If they want, they can also provide it to the Board of Finance, just to make sure that the points that are made are in fact correct. And I mean, something as subtle as stating that the North Haven Board of Selectmen presented a proposed financial outline at its monthly meeting on April 6th, walking through the various budgetary strategies for a responsible municipality framework. Well, that just didn't happen at that meeting, right? That's something that Mr. Frieda did at the public hearing as a member of the Board of Finance, because of course we know that that particular event is actually sponsored by the Board of Finance, not by the Board of Selectmen. So I think that there are subtleties like that, and then there are really overt errors like the ones that Ms. Boehme pointed out that I think are just very important, and it's critical that our townspeople have the correct information, and most importantly, the dates for specific events. And again, I'd just like to clarify that the May 8th event is in fact a budget town meeting. It is not a public hearing. It's a town meeting.
Yeah, they called it a public hearing.
They called it, I think in the first article they called it a town meeting, and the second one they called it a public hearing. So I think that's just very important, and so I'm just like to make that suggestion going forward. Regarding the 2 positions or 1.5 positions for the fire department and the inspections, I just had a quick question. Is the new deputy fire chief, I believe it's Jeff O'Beer, is he also going to serve as a deputy fire marshal?
I'm not sure. I don't think so, no. So,
okay, because that has been the historic track record in the past, where we've had the chief serving as the fire marshal, one of the 2 deputy chiefs serving as the deputy fire marshal, the other one being deputy chief of operations. And then in addition to that, in the past, we've had a single consultant.
Right.
And so I think you have to factor at least the chief as the fire marshal in the head count for their fire marshal office, because you were saying it's just 1.5. So
yeah, but the chief is not doing he's only there in an emergency. We can't have our fire chief doing inspections. He's got a broader range of responsibilities. So right now it's 1.5. That's the number. It's not 2, it's 1.5.
Yeah,
so,
but I think the deputy chief, who the former deputy chief, he was, who left last year, I think.
yes.
Dave.
Oh, Dave, yeah, Dave. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Dave, right, yeah.
The
Was
the deputy
fire marshal, because he had the credentials to be a fire marshal. You
Right,
need
right.
special certification.
Right.
So I don't know whether
So
Deputy Chief O'Beer intends to get those
that's really
certifications. That's up to them.
Yeah, that's up to them. That's not up to
Yeah.
us.
Right,
So-
no. I'm just trying to clarify, because again, I think I remember the chief coming before us and describing his fire marshal office and the composition of it and what it had been and what he hopes it gets back to being. And again, the fire marshal is not just a figurehead position. It is actually something that requires not only training, but you actually take an oath of office in order to
Well, we know all that.
Yeah, no,
we
I'm
know
just
that,
saying.
yeah.
So if you're going to assume that position, and ultimately, he has the absolute responsibility for the overall accuracy of any reporting that comes from either part-time, full-time, or consultants that come out
But
of
we
it.
know all that. We
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that.
yeah. So I'm just saying he should be included in that head count,
Okay.
is my point. And then lastly, in terms of the, again, this is the first time I'm hearing about having a motion come before the Board of Finance for a change in the employment table. I think I also recall in Mr. Ciula's brief that for any amounts in excess of $20,000 that are also represented in changes to the employment table, it not only has to go before the Board of Finance, but it also has to go to a town meeting. Is there also a plan?
Well, it's the same dollars. There's no new expenses on this. You're talking about the inspectors?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same dollars. So we're just changing the table of organization. The salaries are the same, if that's what you're talking about.
So in the current fiscal year you're talking about? In the current
current,
fiscal year, we do not have 2 people, and
Oh,
we
I thought you
certainly...
were about next fiscal year.
Oh, no, this
okay.
year.
No. So I
Yep.
assume that's what you're talking about, is we have to have a vote of the Board of Finance to change the employment
Yes.
table for the current fiscal
Yes.
year.
Right.
because in the current fiscal year, we only have one consultant.
Right.
And you're talking about changing the employment table to make it one full-time employee, one part-time employee, and obviously the combination of the two of them is going to exceed the current budget for just one consultant.
Yeah, that's why it's on the Board of Finance agenda, so. to talk-
So my
yeah.
question is, if the dollar amount that's going to change as a result of this change to the employment table, if it changes by greater than $20,000, I think according to our charter, it also has to go to a town meeting.
Well, we reconcile it in September at the town meeting, anything over $20,000. That we have to explain why the lines went over at the town meeting, the annual town meeting.
But I know she's talking about 7-348, which I have here, and it talks, not in the charter, in Connecticut General Statute, 7-348. Because in Mr. Ciola's letter, he mentions that statute first, and he said, because the change in the employment table wasn't costing any money, it wasn't a violation of that statute. So the question is, and I kind of mentioned this at the Board of Finance meeting, because that line in the most recent expenditure report was already at 94,000 with 3 full months to go, and it was going up 12,000 a month because of the 1.5. It used to go up about 8,000 with just the one. And so then at that rate, it's currently at 94,000, it would be about 128, which is more than 20,000 over the 100, you know.
So what we've done in the
Yeah,
past,
yeah.
what we've done in the past, it's been for decades here, is that if we go over on a line item budget, as long as we don't over-expend the budget itself, because there's lines that are over and lines that are under. So in September, every September, you're at the meetings, I give a list of all the overages, and then the town people vote on it that way.
Right, but when you're talking about creating a new line, so it's at the same time that you're potentially expanding the size of the budget, and we all know that it's going to be a larger amount than the original amount, you're also creating another line item. So that's why I'm wondering if this needs to go to the townspeople, because in my mind, the booklet, and I've said this to you before, the budget booklet, I believe, is kind of like a contract between the Board of Finance and the people of North Haven. We are promising this budget. It's not that we're promising 3 numbers, right? Otherwise, it would be a very short budget book. We're actually promising not only the line items in the budget, but we are promising an employment table. And that has to be frozen, as Ed Swinkowski used to say, after the referendum vote. So if we change that, then I think that represents a change in our promise to the people of North
So
Haven.
I know you see this differently. Go ahead.
I mean, when we go to the referendum in a couple of weeks, what are we voting on?
We are voting, again,
What's
they
the
vote on 3
resolution?
numbers.
What's the resolution to vote that was approved by the Board of Finance?
As I said,
It was dollars.
it's 3
It was
numbers.
dollars.
It's 3 numbers that they
3
vote
numbers
on.
only. Board of Finance, approved, and, we approved, it's going to the referendum, the total budget for the town, the total budget for Board of Education, and the combined budget. We're voting on dollars.
As I said.
Just as Mike said.
As I said,
We're voting
there's a
on
budget
dollars.
booklet
As
that
Mike
we make
said.
available.
No, as Mike said, and we've said many times before, Nancy, those things get reconciled out. We're not changing.
You are changing.
We're voting
You are
only on the total
changing
budget.
the employment
Are we going to
table.
exceed the total budget for?
Yes.
No.
Yes, you
No.
will. Of
No,
course
not
you
the total
will. If you're
dollars that
adding
we're voting at
another
the
line.
referendum. That makes no sense.
The budget that
no, I think
we
you're right.
approved last year is not going to be the same
It is.
budget.
It is, 'cause
Then-
we're not
then
gonna
why
go
is
over
the
that
Board of
budget.
Finance voting?
We're not going to go over that budget.
Of
Well,
course
it's
we
for
will.
No,
that.
we're not.
It's-
No,
it's
no,
not the total
We're talking about a
budget, it's
specific
for the town
total for the
department.
budget's not going to happen.
Can I just read
Please.
738?
I don't want to read it all because I haven't had a chance to
It's
read the
very
memo.
short.
We'll discuss it
It's
at the
right
next
there.
Board of
It says
Finance
it
meeting.
provides
or
in
Board of
relevant
Selectmen
part.
meeting.
I'm not going to be told what I can and cannot read at a Board of
I don't
Selectmen
want to
meeting.
listen to it.
Okay, plug your ears.
No, plug my ears. That
Provides
sounds
in
good to me.
relevant part that no officer of the town shall expend or enter into a contract by which the town would become liable for any sum which would exceed the appropriation for any town department. So it's not like we budgeted this amount of money for utilities and we went over and
That's
we
contrary to what we're
reconcile.
doing.
It's not that,
At the
it's
town
not
meeting.
that an expenditure line just went over because we estimated like a utility line to be a certain amount and it went over, so we reconcile it with transfers at the,
Right.
at the September annual town meeting. This is entering into a contract, meaning you're obligating the town to pay more money to another person. That's
But
new.
then we
that
should change the voting at the referendum
No,
to
that's not
approve that whole
necessary.
budget book.
No, not
And
at
we'll
all.
vote on that budget book as it is verbatim in terms of dollars per department, in terms of the employment tables and everything like
So
that.
Bill,
No, you don't
why do we
vote
have a
on it.
budget book? Why do we
never voted
hand
on
it
that.
out to the people?
Because they can see where the total numbers come from.
They can see each
But they're
line
not
item
voting
and
on-
the
they're not-
employment
They're voting on
table.
the total numbers is what we're going to vote on in a couple of weeks.
As I said, we do not
Then we're doing
just-
it wrong then. I guess we need to vote on the
No,
budget
no,
book is
no,
what you're suggesting?
No.
You're missing the
No.
point, Bill.
No, I understand the point.
We
perfectly.
voted on a budget last May for the
For
current
total
fiscal
dollars.
year.
For
For the
total
current
dollars.
fiscal year.
That's correct.
And we are suggesting changing the employment table. If Mr.
It's not
Frida
that-
thinks that it has risen to the level that the Board of Finance has to change it, right?
Only if we're going to go over budget completely on that total dollar. amount.
Why is the Board of Finance voting on this, Bill? You tell me.
In terms of what?
Why is the Board of Finance being asked to vote on this issue?
No, they're changing just the fact that they're going to hire the person.
Meaning we're changing the employment
In
table.
terms of moving them over, because we feel that's a good way to disclose it and actually get it done. But the dollars, we're not going to we're not going to go over budget. In
We
terms
are-
of the total
We're
budget.
creating a new line item in the
If we
employment
go over
table.
total budget, maybe we should vote on it, but I think the total budget for the town is not going to be over budget.
I think if
It's
we,
not for the town, it's for the department, number one.
But
And-
we don't vote on that. We do not vote on that.
No.
When you look at the ballot that we're voting on May, what's the date, May?
16th.
I'm not-
16th, what are we
16th.
voting on? What are we voting on? Not on anything other than the total dollars.
okay,
For the
if
town
that's the
and for
case, then the
of
Board of Finance shouldn't have to vote, right?
Okay, I'm
But
okay with
clearly,
that.
our outside counsel has given Mr. Frieda advice
I'm okay with
and
that.
recommended that the Board of Finance should.
I'm
What
okay
I'm
with that.
asking is, above and beyond the Board of Finance, since this represents a change to our budget for the current fiscal year that the people of North Haven voted on almost a year ago, should this go to a town meeting? That's my question.
I don't think so.
I don't
Okay.
think
But I'll tell you
That's-
what.
It's pursuant to 738, just ask town council his opinion.
That's my question.
I think you've already said that we're going to, that you're going to put on the agenda for the Board of Finance to approve this because it's a change in the employment table. But what is the dollar effect of that change for the department? That's the reading of the statute, not the reading of the resolutions that are on the ballot for the referendum. It's the statute. And here, he said, because the promotions would not cause any expenditures, there's no violation of 7348. So all you have to do is ask the town attorney, in his opinion,
We'll ask him.
does
That's all I'm asking.
7348
Just ask
click
the
in or
attorney.
not? If he says no, that's fine. I'm happy with the Board of Finance
At the very least.
approving it because clearly they are legally obligated to approve the change in the employment table. But,
which I don't disagree with.
right.
But it does say in 707E, and however, the appropriation of compensation has been made by the Board of Finance and/or at the town meeting pursuant to the general statutes. So it's an
That's
and/or.
what we're
So,
saying.
to go back to and/or, in this case, we don't need the town meeting.
So
as it's approved by
if
the
it's
Board of
and,
Finance.
it's got to be both.
No, it's and/or.
So then, are we going to have a town meeting?
I don't see any reason to,
That's
because it's
the
not going to
question.
go over what
That's
we
the
actually
whole question.
voted at
Okay,
the town
well,
meeting a year
All right,
ago.
so the and/or means the town meeting or both.
No.
Yes,
That
that's
means
what it
and/or.
means.
No, it doesn't. That's
Yes,
not
it does.
what it
That
means
means.
grammatically.
Okay,
That's
all right.
completely
Well,
wrong.
I appreciate having the time to be able to address this issue.
And I
all of these
appreciate having the
issues.
time to be able to read something from 1993, which Sally wanted to, and you guys dropped on us today, which I haven't seen before.
Yes,
If
you
want
have,
to do
Bill.
that-
You have seen this
Sally,
before.
if you want to do that, I'd recommend that you provide this prior to the meeting so it can be properly reviewed by everybody.
You know, I get
I-
things on the Board of Finance dropped on me all the time as I walk in the door, and I'm sure you remember that
Thank
as
you
well.
for
Bill.
providing it, so I had no time to read it before the meeting.
I gave it to you at the January 2020 Board of Finance meeting.
I don't have
went
a
up and
copy.
down the aisle
Yes,
and gave
she
a
did.
folder to every Board of Finance member, a copy of this letter, and I gave one to you at
I don't
at
have
the
a
table.
copy.
In the audience.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, that's
All
all
right,
right.
thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Yes, William?
Bill Richards, North Avenue. Got a question for you. On the paving of the roads that we're going through, all right? I've noticed with proper inflated tires, all right? And on the side streets up like around George Street through that area, you're getting noise vibration off the road, which means possibly there's not enough asphalt in there or properly rolled out. Now, with life expectancy on that, I don't know whether somebody can answer on that, because I know our cost per mile has gone up greatly, all right? And the roads, some of the roads in town are in a terrible, terrible disaster right now, especially over on the Pool Road side.
Well, that road's going to be paved, Bill. That section of Pool Road is going to be paved this year.
Okay, but
So, Nancy,
right
please.
now, just.
Time out, Nancy, we're having a discussion here. Your comments from there are distractive to us here, so if you could tamp it down, please, okay? No, you all meeting long, you've been kind of talking back there. It's a distraction to us, so please.
Yeah,
Anyway.
so what I'm saying is, seeing the cost is going up so much on paving, I feel with the dollar value that you had from last year to this year going
Right.
on, are we going to be able to maintain the roads or do less per year to try to balance out the cost with the cost per mile?
So, as I mentioned, Bill, that we've gone from $200 to $260 to $300,000 to pave and mill a mile worth of road, okay?
Right.
So, we are now going to be you gotta understand, people may not realize it, that we don't pave roads. There's only one contractor in the state, Tilcon, that does it, and that's who everybody uses. Public Works does not pave and mill roads. So, we've got the one company that does it for just about everybody. So what we're going to do this year is we're going to do some asphalt testing. I've got Public Works going out before roads paved to test the temperature of the asphalt, because there's certain guidelines in that temperature that need to be met. And if we can do that, then at that point, as long as those guidelines are being met temperature-wise, then it is what it is. Now, when I say it is what it is we pave a road, and you got to understand also the difference today between today and 10 years ago. We have 750,000 cars and trucks coming through. So there's more pounding on these roads. It's not like it was years ago. So we've got that. You know, the roads are being constantly traveled on. So moving forward, we're going to have to make a decision, and this year is a good example. There are some roads, one of which that we're doing in the Monowee section, that instead of milling on both sides, we're going to have to do a total reconstruction of the road, a curb-to-curb milling, which will be more expensive. And that may end up diminishing the number of miles that we'll do. But I'm still focused on 10 miles. That's what we kind of do. We go 10, 11, doing 10 miles. But that's going to be a bonding package, sometime in the summer. And I'll have to get public approval on that.
Right, because I know my road there, on 2 occasions now, kids have actually fallen off scooters and bicycles because the holes are so bad in the ruts.
Well, and keep this in mind too. I don't know if I said this at the meeting, that this administration over 13 years has paved an average of, let's say, 10 miles. That's 130 miles worth of roadways.
Right.
$26 million in paving and milling. And we're still 64 miles short of paving the whole town. So it's very expensive to do it. And when you look at all the roads we've done, and still the roads that haven't been done, it would be a tremendous expense to try to do more roads, particularly at this current cost. So these are rough numbers. 130 miles. We're still 60-plus miles short. Roads we haven't been able to do.
So how about with, well, people probably wouldn't like to spend more money, but maybe possibly bonding a little bit more over the next several years out so that we can get caught up to where we probably should be with the increased amount of traffic.
So when we think about that, Bill, we went from 2 million in bonding to 2.6 last year, and I'll probably bump it up to 3 million this year just to do the 10 miles worth of roads. At some point in time, we're paying the debt on the high school. You were at the meeting, I think, right?
Yes.
You saw the debt service has escalated here because of the high school. We're still paying off the fire departments. We have the police department we're still paying on. So at some point in time, I've got to be very cognizant of how much debt I can add because it hits as a budget line item as it is in the budget every year. So what's the number? Oh, is it 12 miles? Well, that's then $3,600,000 or $3 million, even more than that. 10 miles is 3 million. To put 2 more miles on, that's another 600,000. So we have to find the right balance.
Yeah, the only other thing I'd like to say is I hope everybody votes for the budget because there's no increases over the last several years, and the way the economy's going, the country's running, that's not a bad increase.
Yeah. Hey, Bill, one final point on the road paving. Think about this. So if we wanted to do all the remaining roads that we haven't done, that's about an $18 million bonding package. I don't think I can get that approved. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
A lot of money. So,
If anybody could get it improved, that would be you.
well, and then again, even if we got it approved, we don't know if we can get Tilcon to do all that. Because the way it works is we're sort of competing for time to try to get them in here.
Right. Everybody else wants them.
Well, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Look, you make some good points, you really do, but there are consequences to trying to do everything all at once from a financial standpoint.
The only other thing is, I guess, with the public works to maybe be able to fill up some of the bad spots a little bit better.
Yeah, so on that,
And then possibly, instead of just throwing shovelfuls in of asphalt,
right.
possibly throw some in, and I know we have a small roller in town, take that with them and just roll it down the best they can.
Yeah, so we have a pothole crew that's out there, and they use cold asphalt. We didn't have access to hot asphalt, which stays to the road a little bit better.
Right.
So that's another dilemma. During the springtime, okay, when February and March, when the potholes start appearing all over the state, all over the United States, where that has temperatures like ours, with cold weather, rain. See, what happens is when snow converts to rain and temperatures rise, underneath the road, there becomes a space as moisture affects the asphalt on the top and the sub-base. And as this grows, as cars travel over this in trucks, the space between that arises in the temperature change, the weight of the vehicle causes the pothole. It collapses in certain spots. And that is every city and town that goes through that.
Right.
March and April are bad pothole months. We have a pothole team that goes out there and tries to hit all potholes. In some streets, at the base of the street and the connecting street, that connection is all destroyed because the water is coming down one way. We actually are repairing areas like this size, that connect one street to another. So it's a very complicated thing. It's not easy. And it's a problem that everybody has, particularly in March. So always remember the expansion and contraction of the roads and the weight of the vehicles.
Especially when we live in New England.
That's right. So,
Yeah, so once again, I'd like to see, hopes everybody votes for that budget, because I don't want to see you have to go back and cut any more out if we have to.
well, thank you. And Tom feels the same way, so appreciate the comments. Thank you.
That's it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, I think you accurately explained that space.
Yeah.
And the problem is where two streets meet, there's usually a crack there, and that's why those areas tend to have a lot of potholes. And you're right, we do have a team that goes out, but they're cold patching, and cold patching is a Band-Aid,
Just
really.
temporary, yeah.
Yeah. And and a lot of times, even if the cold patching holds, like fortunately this year, we didn't have much plowing for snow, because the plows catch that sometimes and
Yeah.
flips it too. So, yeah, water goes where water's gonna go, and it has its effects, so I agree.
Okay, I think that's about it for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to
Okay.
adjourn.
All right, motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. Have a good night, everybody.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.